Hi,
Hey
Richard. Welcome
Zara,
to the
thanks
show.
for having me.
Could you talk a little bit about what you do?
I'm the co-founder for a native generative AI game engine startup called Dreamix. On the side, I also have a solo project, which is a Roblox gaming studio. Before this, I used to work for Roblox. I've been in the games industry for well over 15 years now.
Awesome. And I got really interested in talking to you because you showed me how you've managed to use AI image generation to really boost the engagement and revenue of your Roblox games. Could you show us what impact generative AI have had on your games?
The first thing I did was I created a new icon manually. Then we go to this generative AI icon, and this one again took me about less than an hour, maybe only about 20 minutes to generate. And you can see immediately the impact was instant. It was almost double the home conversion rate of what I had previously. And this was less than an hour's worth of work. You can see the difference in impact between a manually designed logo and one that was created using generative AI. Now, in terms of the number of players, you can see here, the impact the generative AI icon had was almost immediate. Previously, we were doing 3,000 to 4,000 players a day, and then we peaked out almost 20 times that to about 60,000. And the impact was immediate.
And the only thing you changed
Yeah,
was
that's the only thing we changed.
And how has that increase in players translated to revenue?
So you can see immediately for the few days following, number of paying users increased from around 40 on average to over 300 paying users. And in terms of the impact on the daily revenue, you can see here the impact was immediate, and it's settled down a little, but you can see the baseline now is definitely higher than where we were before. And
like, how much dollar value do you think AI has brought to your
right now, as I said, these are just experiments. So currently it's in the tens of thousands of dollars. I'm a solo developer and this is a side gig. So this will be over the next 12 months, minimum in the hundreds of thousands. Give it a year, I'm confident that this could be in the millions. This is just a side project. This is me and one friend that I have, and that we do this together. And the amount of time that we spend on this is really minimal. And generative AI is giving us the power to basically we don't need a full design team or marketing team now. Like, it's really improved our capability in terms of what we can do with our limited bandwidth, like to an enormous degree. So this is what convinced me that generative AI is going to have a huge, massive impact on game development, and especially in UGC ecosystems. In UGC ecosystems, users have a higher tolerance for kind of scrappy artwork and things that feel UGC, like kind of meme style. They don't have to have like too high fidelity, or it doesn't need to be like a high level of finesse, especially given that, UGC gaming developer teams like on Roblox and Fortnite, some of these are getting quite big now. I think Roblox's biggest UGC game developer actually has 100 team members for that team. Yeah. So wow. I think generative AI is going to really empower a lot of solo developers or very small teams to be able to achieve now what previously only bigger teams will be able to achieve.
That's awesome. And you've also used generative AI to create artwork for the game itself.
So this is a new game that we put together. This is called Find the Bobas. So this game, we went all in on generative AI. So in this game, so not just the icon, but the artwork and also the in-game assets, we use generative AI heavily to build this game. So these thumbnails you see here, all these individual character designs you see here, these were all created in DALL 3.0, and none of these had any kind of like after touch-ups or anything. So you can see how expressive some of these characters are. This really transformed our ability to create artwork and characters and assets inside the game. So you can see this kind of like clown themed boba has kind of boba balls for his hair. You can see the cowboy, he has like little pieces of boba stubble scattered between his larger boba balls. And it's the detail and even the creativity that generative AI was able to put into this. We were blown away. We have over 100 characters in this game, each with their own personality, each with their own backstory, and we managed to create the artwork for all 100 characters in this game over the course of about 2 to 3 days, just by using generative AI prompts. And this is our favorite part of the game, are these characters that we built into this. And we've had over 130,000 visits. And if we show the impact that we're getting from this game, it's immediate. This one far outperforms any other games in terms of its basic metrics, in terms of retention rate, in terms of how long players are playing for each session time, how long players stick around over the long term. This player is outperforming everything. This was a rapid game that was built in a space of about a month and a half, and generative AI, I would attribute a good 30% of this game's appeal to the users that are playing this down to what we were able to achieve with generative AI.
That's really amazing. How long would it have taken the designers to design those 100 boba characters like before AI?
I think a good designer to do 100 of these pieces of artwork for a single designer, I don't know, maybe that would be like a month's worth of work, maybe more. But for us two, neither of us have a background in design at all. Like, I'm not an trained artist, and neither is my partner on this. And we were able to create these, plus all the optimization cycles that we went through for each of these individual characters. Yep, just 2 to 3 days versus what probably would have been at least a month's work for a professional designer.
Yeah, I can see how this will really empower solo developers to create compelling games and artworks without having to hire professional designers.
If you have a look at some of the other UGC content on Roblox, you can see the approach that many of the players will take to creating their artwork is, we have like hand-drawn attempts. We have users just taking screenshots. Most of them, users don't really have that capability. These games may be great, but they may be being let down by, how appealing some of these games actually look to players. And I think absolutely this is going to empower the long-tail creators to make games that are as appealing as those that previously maybe they had their own design team. So yeah, absolutely, I think it's going to transform a creator empowerment.
Could you show us the workflow that you actually used to generate these artworks?
I'd advise any creators, even if you don't have enough budget for OpenAI's monthly subscription, Microsoft's Copilot designer actually uses DALL-E's version 3 as its model for creating images. So this is totally free. You get about 15 credits a day. So the way that we approach creating these artwork is we started out with something very simple. Let's say, for example, we wanted to create like a witch boba. The first thing we would start out, we'd just type witch boba. But the problem is, if your prompts are really short, the output tends to be very generic. So it's really important to, if you start broad, become more and more specific as you go. So you can see here, there's about 20 words that we used in this specific prompt. If I show you the full text, it's a white boba, bubble tea with a cute OO mouth. I think the one we went with in-game for this, I think was the bottom left-hand corner. We felt it had like a nice organic feel and the expressiveness was really good. And this is what made it into the game as the artwork. If I type witch boba, as you can see, this is it's cool, but it's not quite what we want for the experience. So actually what we want is a green boba, bubble tea. Now, for words like boba, it may be that word is too niche for the model to really understand. So it's worth also adding in extra descriptors just to make sure that the model is really absolutely certain what you're talking about here. Wearing a witch's hat. So we'll go through these optimization cycles until we get to what we think is good enough in terms of our prompt. And then once we reach that point, it's then a case of just repeating maybe 2 or 3 times until we have a candidate list of images that we think are suitable to use. And then we'll pick the one that we like best out of that.
By the way, how do you ensure each attempt to generate an image results in the similar style of images? For example, the Japanese watercolor style.
Yeah, that's right. And you can see the example here. This is definitely not the art style that we were looking for in the game. So we can add some prompt text that can attempt to control what that art style will look like. I would just describe it. So I would say it is in kawaii, so super cute, Japanese watercolor style. We'll try again.
So you would add that like Japanese kawaii watercolor style to
that's
every
right.
prompt.
Yeah, it basically becomes a template in the end.
Okay, now it looks really consistent with the other.
And there will always be a trade-off from what we're doing here, because what we care about more than anything in what we're doing here is, can we create an expressive character that we can use as the artwork inside the game. And the game that best expresses that type of character, we will lean towards that than having something that's super, super consistent. I would say maybe this guy on the bottom right-hand corner is probably the one that we feel would be more suitable for the game that we've made.
I think in the case of Roblox game characters, done is better than perfect. Like, even though not all the characters are 100% perfect or consistent, it's good enough for it to work and be engaging to users. And if you can speed that up by like 100% or 200%, it's a lot of
absolutely. I mean,
improvement.
The choice is, do you want to be 90% there in 3 days or 95% there in 30 days? That's the choice. And I think, saving 27 days but sacrificing that 5% is a really great trade-off.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And maybe what I can also do is I can show you what this looks like in game as well. When we first made this game, we actually designed all the 3D models manually inside the game, and it actually took quite a while. And the interesting thing is in game, even some of the players that have been playing Find the Bobas have said that they hate the in-game 3D models that we created, and they love the 2D characters, and they wish that those 2D characters could be in the game itself.
Nice. So users, even though you put a lot of effort into the 3D ones, the users actually prefer the AI generated.
Yeah, absolutely.
2D.
This YouTuber even mentioned that they love the 2D artwork far more than the 3D models, and they even suggested that maybe we could just use the 2D artwork in the 3D space instead of the 3D models that we created here. So that might be another productivity gain we would have in the future for this specific game. So you can see here, this is another boba. This one, I think, was inspired by Ari Grande, so Bubbles, who was on the roof. You can see here, Bubbles is a cheerful boba who spends her days blowing bubbles and annoying the other bobas when they step in her gum. My favorite was a guy called Hunko. So this boba was inspired by a punk rocker character. So this one, I would love to drink a boba drink that looks like that.
Nice. He looks really angry.
So so that's what it looks like in the final experience. So yeah, we're absolutely sold on this. Now, some of the bigger challenges that I think developers still face right now, not just creating 2D art assets, but how do you get creative by building your 3D assets? That's also a really big challenge. And so we think generative AI, once the technology catches up, I think it's going to have a really big impact in 3D asset production. Sound and music, I think is going to have a big impact there. Voice, we're already seeing big impact. So companies like 11 Labs are doing some amazing stuff with like voice cloning technology. That will be something that we'll definitely experiment on these Roblox experiments. So this is really just a side project. Our main startup is called Dreamix. And what we're building at Dreamix is a native generative AI gaming platform. In DreamMaker, you're able to use generative AI to create 3D models. So you can text prompts the types of 3D models that you want to build, and all the various different components for those 3D assets you can use generative AI to do. If you want to create background music, you can describe the type of music that you want to create with generative AI. And in this case, it's some country music with a banjo string. We can even create various types of voice. We have something called the text to NPC prompt. We can get ideas about games, so the AI assistant can help you to develop the ideas for the games. Rather than having to build everything individually, we want users to be able to start with prompts. You start with the ideation, you start with the assets, all through natural language prompts.
It sounds really exciting. Basically, it's like an all-in-one tool for generating games with AI. Just has everything in one place. Thank you so much, Richard, for sharing.
That's okay. And Zara, look, thanks for having me on today. Let's keep in touch. I'd love to share with you more of the experiments. And I'm really excited, as some of these tools become more useful, more powerful, and that we start seeing more use cases of the way that generative AI is having an impact, not just on productivity, but real performance in games. Yeah, really excited to see what else we can discover out there.
Okay,
cool. Okay,
awesome.
Cool.